It was just another ordinary morning at the academy, sunlight spilling through tall windows, students chatting in hushed tones, and the sharp click of polished shoes echoing down the hallway. At the center of it all stood Mr. Adler, a brilliant but intimidating mathematics professor known for his strict rules and impossible expectations. To him, everything was numbers, logic, and structure. Feelings, irrelevant, mistakes, unacceptable. He had no patience for what he called non-mathematical minds. Enter Lena, quiet, humble, and always in the background. She worked part-time in the campus cafeteria and had never set foot in a classroom here. With no formal education in higher math, she was the last person anyone would expect to see standing at the front of a whiteboard. But fate has a strange way of flipping the script when no one's watching. It all started when she accidentally walked into the wrong room, just as Mr. Adler was challenging his top students with a problem that had left even the brightest scratching their heads. Annoyed by the interruption, he demanded she solve the equation on the board, more as a way to make a point than to actually get an answer. Everyone expected her to freeze, to mumble an apology and walk out, embarrassed. But Lena didn't back down. She picked up the marker, stared at the problem for a few seconds, and then something changed. What happened next left the entire room in stunned silence, even Mr. Adler, because behind her quiet eyes and gentle smile was a mind sharper than anyone had ever imagined. But where did she learn it? And why had she hidden it for so long? The moment she wrote her first number, everything began to shift, and that was only the beginning. Lena didn't speak as she moved the marker across the board, only the soft squeak of ink filling the silence. Her hands moved with a calm confidence that made the room uneasy. Students leaned forward, whispering, wondering if this was some kind of joke. Mr. Adler stood motionless, arms crossed, his sharp eyes narrowing with every step she took in solving the problem. It wasn't just that she was right. It was asterisk how asterisk she was right. Her method wasn't what they were taught in class. It was elegant, creative, almost like she saw the math in pictures rather than numbers. Her solution skipped unnecessary steps, flowing like a melody. For someone who supposedly had no background, her approach wasn't just correct, it was genius. But who was she really? Whispers began to spread across campus that day. A cafeteria worker who solved an elite-level equation like it was a crossword puzzle. Some said she was a savant, others claimed she must have hidden credentials. But Lena kept to herself. She clocked out as usual, tied her apron, and went home. No explanations, no attention. Mr. Adler, however, couldn't let it go. For the first time in years, he felt challenged. Not by another professor, not by one of his brightest students, but by someone society had overlooked entirely. His pride wouldn't allow it. He needed answers. Who had taught her? Where had she learned such rare insight? And why was someone like her hiding in the background? The next day, he made a quiet call to administration. If she had secrets, he'd find them. What he didn't know was that Lena's past was something even she didn't talk about. And the truth, once uncovered, might change everything he thought he knew about genius, education, and himself. The next few days were anything but normal. Lena noticed the change before anyone said a word. Students who never looked her way now whispered behind her back. Professors paused when she passed in the hallway. Some smiled politely, others looked unsure, maybe even threatened. She kept her head down, but inside, a storm was brewing. She hadn't meant to draw attention. All she'd done was solve a problem. That's what numbers were to her. Puzzles, not performances. Mr. Adler, meanwhile, couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. He reviewed security footage, asked quiet questions around campus, even tried to access her personnel records. But there wasn't much there. Just a name, a short work history, and a vague note about homeschooling. No university, no formal training, no evidence that she'd ever even taken a real math course. And yet, she had solved a problem that stumped a room full of advanced students. It didn't add up. But Lena wasn't entirely alone. One of Agla's students, Malik, had noticed something different about her even before the math incident. A quiet grace, a depth that didn't match her job title. He started leaving notes for her in the staff break room. Simple things, like math jokes and brain teasers. She never responded directly, but each day, the paper would come back with new scribbles. Clever ones, sharp ones. It became a silent friendship. Meanwhile, the school board started hearing rumors. An untrained worker displaying signs of mathematical genius. For an elite institution, that kind of story could spark either pride or panic. Was this a PR opportunity or a potential scandal? And still, no one knew the real story. Why Lena had never applied to study, why she lived so simply, so quietly, when her mind was clearly rare. But someone from her past was about to return, and they knew exactly why she'd stayed hidden. The tension on campus was no longer quiet. Whispers had turned into questions. Why was Lena still working in the cafeteria? Why hadn't she been offered a place in the university's prestigious math program? And most of all, why was Mr. Adler suddenly attending her lunch shifts, casually checking in, like a man trying to solve a different kind of problem? Lena tried to stay invisible again, but it was too late. Her quiet world had cracked open, and people were starting to see what she never meant to show. Every day she walked into work, she felt eyes on her, not cruel, but curious. Malik had grown bolder, even inviting her to a student math symposium. She didn't say yes, but she didn't say no either. Then, one morning, an unfamiliar face appeared on campus, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a firm expression. She asked for Lena at the front desk, showed no interest in polite conversation, and refused to give a reason for her visit. Her name was Dr. Marin Vos, a former professor who had once been forced to resign under strange circumstances. Few remembered the details, but Lena remembered everything asterisk. Lena saw her across the quad and froze. It was like a ghost stepping out of the past, bringing memories she had spent years trying to bury. Marin wasn't just a visitor. She was part of the reason Lena had walked away from her early talent, from recognition, from a world that had once betrayed her brilliance. Mr. Adler spotted them too, watching from his office window. He didn't know their history, but he saw the way Lena's posture shifted. For the first time, she looked afraid, and that fear made him realize something. This wasn't just about math anymore. Something big was coming, something buried, and it was about to surface. Lena didn't sleep that night. She sat in the quiet of her small apartment, staring at old notebooks tucked away in a box beneath her bed, pages filled with equations, theorems, ideas that once lit her up from the inside. Back when she believed that raw talent was enough, before it was used against her. Dr. Marin Vos had been her mentor once in a highly secretive youth research program overseas. Lena had been the youngest in the group, barely a teenager, solving graduate-level problems with ease. But something had gone wrong. A theory Lena developed had been taken, published without credit. When she protested, things turned cold. Marin denied everything. Lena's name was erased, her future shattered before it had even started. And now she was back. Mr. Adler had no idea what kind of storm he was circling. He arranged a private meeting with Marin, pretending it was a casual academic inquiry. But halfway through, he sensed it. Marin wasn't just curious about Lena. She was invested, almost nervous. When he mentioned the word prodigy, her smile froze. And that's when he realized this visit wasn't random. Marin hadn't come to admire Lena. She'd come to stop something. At the same time, Malik discovered a mysterious folder on an old academic database. Buried deep in the archives, it was linked to a project titled Project Vortex. Lena's name wasn't listed, but the equations inside. He recognized her style instantly. It was the same flowing logic she used on the board that day. He printed the pages, heart pounding. Whoever tried to bury her work didn't do a good enough job. The walls were closing in, and Lena could feel it. Her past wasn't just resurfacing, it was circling. What was once a personal betrayal was now turning into a public reckoning. And it wasn't just her reputation at stake anymore. The storm finally broke on the day of the university's annual symposium, a gathering meant to showcase student research. But this year, all eyes were on one unexpected name added last minute to the schedule: Lena. Rumors had already reached every corner of the campus. Some thought it was a stunt, others believed she was a fraud. But when she stepped on stage, marker in hand, the room went still. Lena didn't speak with flair. She didn't try to impress. She simply walked to the board and began writing, an unfinished equation pulled directly from the old Project Vortex documents Malik had uncovered. She didn't say where it came from, but anyone with a trained eye knew this wasn't undergrad work. It was complex, abstract, and years ahead of current theory. Piece by piece, she began solving it, each line more stunning than the last. In the crowd, Mr. Adler watched with a conflicted expression, part pride, part shame. He had underestimated her, but now he understood. This wasn't just talent. This was vision. Dr. Maren Vos sat near the back, trying to keep her face neutral. But when Lena paused and turned to the audience, her voice calm and clear, Maren's mask cracked. "This solution was first drafted 10 years ago," Lena said, "by a girl who never got to sign her own work." Gasps moved through the room like a ripple. Lena didn't accuse Maren by name. She didn't need to. The silence said everything. And then, just as the moderator tried to bring the session to a close, Malik stepped forward. He held up the printed pages from the buried archive and said, "These were published without a name. But the handwriting, it's hers." That moment changed everything. Maren quietly stood and left, her reputation unraveling in real time. The university launched an immediate review, and Lena, no longer hidden, was offered a full research position. But the twist came later, in private, when Lena visited Mr. Adler's office. "I didn't come here to reclaim anything," she said. "I came here to see if truth still matters." And he replied, "It does. At least now, it has a face." In the weeks that followed, the buzz around Lena didn't fade, it evolved. No longer was she just the cafeteria worker with a secret. She became a symbol of overlooked brilliance, of how potential often blooms quietly in the corners where no one's looking. Students began stopping her on campus, not for photos or praise, but with real curiosity. They wanted to learn. And for the first time in years, Lena felt safe enough to teach. Mr. Adler, once proud and rigid, started his own quiet transformation. He invited Lena to co-lead a new research program, one designed not just for top scorers, but for minds that think differently. He never admitted how much her presence had shaken him. He didn't need to. The respect in his eyes said it all. Malik's bond with Lena deepened. He had questions she enjoyed answering, and she offered him the kind of mentorship she once wished for herself. Their late-night problem-solving sessions became a small legend among the students. Together, they even began drafting a paper, based on the very theory that had once been buried. As for Dr. Maren Vos, her departure was quiet, but not forgotten. The academic world took note. Her past work was reviewed, and though she still denied everything, the damage was done. The silence around Lena's story had finally been broken. Lena never returned to the cafeteria. Instead, she took a simple office with a window that overlooked the garden. Sometimes she still walked by the kitchen, smiling at the familiar smell of coffee and old routines. But now, she belonged where she always should have been, in the classroom, in the research lab, and most importantly, in her own story. Because sometimes the most brilliant minds don't rise by seeking attention. They rise by staying true, until the world is finally ready to listen.